students, I Rajeshwari Shirkanhalli welcome you all in Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School channel. Students, as you know, we are discussing chapter number 9, Force and Laws of Motion. So, we have seen that force is nothing but a push or a pull. To carry out any activity, we need to apply force. So, force causes different effects. It sets the object in motion, it stops the object which is already moving, it changes the speed of the moving object, it changes the direction, it changes the speed of the object. So, some or other effect is seen on the object by application of force. After that, we have discussed about types of forces. There are two types, balanced force and unbalanced force. So, balanced force does not cause any movement of the object, and whereas an unbalanced force causes movement in the object. After that, after knowing about the force, we are going to discuss about three laws of motion, which are also called as Newton's laws of motion. So, the first law, second law and third law. I have introduced about first law of motion in brief. The first law of motion is also called as the law of inertia. So, let us see that first law of motion in detail. So, first law of motion. By observing the motion of objects on an inclined plane, Galileo, you know that scientist Galileo Galilei, he deduced that objects move with a constant speed when no force acts on them. Okay, so what Galileo Galilei observed, he saw that if no force is acting on the object, then object move with constant speed. He observed that when a marble rolls down an inclined plane, its velocity increases. Just look at this first figure. Here you can see this is an inclined plane and this is a marble. So, this direction, this arrow shows that it is rolling down. So, what he said that when a marble rolls down on an inclined plane, its velocity increases. In the next chapter, that is in chapter number 10, gravitation, you will learn that the marble falls under the unbalanced force of gravity as it rolls down and attains a definite velocity by the time it reaches the bottom. So, in gravitation chapter, you are going to learn about the force of gravity. So, force of gravity is nothing but gravity which pulls everything towards itself in the downward direction. So, that is the gravitational force of the earth. So, you are going to study in detail about this in the next chapter. Okay. Its velocity decreases when it climbs up, as shown in the second figure, that is figure 9.5b. So, when a marble rolls down, it is under the influence of force of gravity, that is why velocity increases. And when here the marble climbs the inclined plane, means it has to do work against the force of gravity. So, in that case the velocity decreases. Now, the third figure, that is figure 9.5c, shows a marble resting on an ideal frictionless plane inclined on both the sides. So, look at the third figure. Here this is one inclined plane and this is the second inclined plane. So, these both inclined planes are shown here in this figure, and these are, here the marble is resting on the ideal frictionless plane, means there is no friction, okay, inclined on both the sides. Galileo argued that when the marble is released from the left, it would roll down the slope and go up to the opposite side of the same height from which it was released. So, he said that here this is from left, when the marble is rolled down from the left, it would roll down and it reaches to the same height when it goes through this another inclined plane. If the inclinations of the planes on both the sides are equal, then the marble will climb the same distance that it covered while rolling down. Okay, so if both the inclinations are equal, if both the inclinations are equal, then while rolling down, how much distance this marble covers, that much distance it covers on the another inclined plane while climbing up. So, if in this case the inclinations of the planes on both the sides are equal, then the marble will climb the same distance that it covered while rolling down. If the angle of inclination of the right side plane were gradually decreased, okay, so the angle of inclination of the right side plane, this is the angle of inclination. If this angle is gradually decreased, this right side plane, if its angle is gradually decreased, then what happens in that case? The marble would travel further distances till it reaches the original height. If the right side plane were ultimately made horizontal, so by decreasing that inclination, so see this is 1, then this is decreased inclination, here again angle of inclination is decreased and finally it is made horizontal. So what happens when the inclination is made 0, means the slope is reduced to 0. The marble would continue to travel forever trying to reach the same height that it was released from. So if the right side inclination is decreased and it is made horizontal, then the marble starts rolling, it starts traveling forever for reaching the height from where it was released. The unbalanced forces on the marble in this case are 0. It thus suggests that an unbalanced external force is required to change the motion of the marble, but no net force is needed to sustain the uniform motion of the marble. Okay, so we have discussed that an unbalanced force is required for changing the state of the motion, means for moving the object we require an unbalanced force, but no net force is required for sustaining the uniform motion of the marble. So if no net force is there, if net force is 0, then also the object or the marble moves in uniform motion. In practical situations, it is difficult to achieve a 0 unbalanced force. This is because of the presence of frictional force acting opposite to the direction of the motion. Okay students, you have discussed last year about frictional force. So there is a force of friction everywhere. So practically making the unbalanced force 0 is not possible. Thus in practice the marble stops after travelling some distance. So what happens? It does not move forever, it stops after travelling some distance. The effect of the frictional force may be minimized by using a smooth marble and a smooth plane and providing a lubricant on the top of the planes. So last year in the friction chapter you have discussed, you have learnt that the friction is more on the rough surfaces and it is less on the smooth surfaces. So as you know that friction is present in between the surfaces. So here the friction can be minimized by taking a smooth marble and smooth plane. So there is less friction. And similarly by applying lubricant on the top of the planes, the friction can be minimized more. Newton further studied Galileo's ideas on force and motion and presented 3 fundamental laws that govern the motion of objects. Okay, so Newton studied Galileo's ideas for understanding about force and motion, and he presented 3 fundamental laws which are called as Newton's laws of motion. These 3 laws are known as Newton's laws of motion. The first law of motion is stated as, this is the statement of first law of motion: an object remains in a state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change that state by an applied force. Okay, so if no unbalanced force is applied, then the object, if it is at rest, it remains in the same state, that is in the state of rest. And if suppose it is moving in uniform motion in a straight line, then it keeps on moving in the uniform motion in a straight line. Unless and until we apply some unbalanced force, the state of the object cannot be changed. So that is the first law of motion. In other words, all objects resist a change in their state of motion. To resist means to oppose. So all the objects, they oppose the change in their state of motion, means they want to remain in the same state of motion. In a qualitative way, the tendency of undisturbed objects to stay at rest or to keep moving with the same velocity is called inertia. So inertia is the tendency of the body to remain in the same state of rest or motion. So this is the quality which the objects wants to stay at rest or to keep moving with the same velocity, that is called as inertia. This is why the first law of motion is also known as the law of inertia. So students, if the question is asked to state the law of inertia, then you have to write the same statement, that is the first law of motion. So what is the first law states? An object remains in a state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change that state by an applied force. Okay? Means until and unless a force is applied, the object remains in the same state. Okay. Certain experiences that we come across while traveling in a motor car can be explained on the basis of the law of inertia. We tend to remain at rest with respect to the seat until the driver applies a braking force to stop the motor car. Okay, so this is a simple example. If suppose we are going in a bus, in a motor car, then we are in the state of motion. When the driver applies the brake, the motor car stops, but our tendency to remain in the same state of motion makes us to fall forward, means we get a forward jerk in that case. So with the application of the brakes, the car slows down, but our body tends to continue in the same state of motion because of its inertia. So because of the inertia, our body wants to remain in the same state of motion. A sudden application of brakes may thus cause injury to us. Okay, so if brakes are applied suddenly, then because of inertia, we, as it is the tendency to remain in the state of motion, we may fall forward. So it may cause injury to us, and that's why it is instructed to use car belts, seat belts in the cars, isn't it? Okay. Now here in this some information about the scientist Galileo Galilei is given. You can go through this information. Okay. So it can cause, when sudden brakes are applied, it may cause some injury or some other impact because of the collision with the panels in front. So sometimes what happens, if the brakes are applied immediately, suddenly we fall on the panels which are there in the front side of the motor car and we may get injured. So safety belts are worn to prevent such accidents. That's why the seat belts are there, which are called as safety belts, that should be worn so that such accidents can be prevented. Safety belts exert a force on our body to make the forward motion slower. So what happens exactly when we wear these safety belts? These safety belts cause force, they exert force on our body, and that's why our forward motion becomes slowed. An opposite experience is encountered when we are standing in a bus and the bus begins to move suddenly. Okay, in the first situation what we saw, if the bus is moving, then we are also moving along with the bus, but if the bus stops suddenly, then our motion of the body is, sorry, because of the tendency of inertia of our body, we fall forward. But see, the opposite case is if suppose we are already moving in a bus, okay, and sorry, we are standing in a bus and bus begins to move suddenly, then we tend to fall backwards. Why? Because again our body resists the motion. It wants to remain in the same state of rest. That is why our body does not want to move along with the bus. So, this is because the sudden start of the bus brings motion to the bus as well as to our feet in contact with the floor of the bus. Okay, so, when we are standing in the bus means our feet is in contact with the bus. So, when the bus starts, the bus comes in motion. Similarly, our feet which is in contact with the floor of the bus also comes in motion. But the rest of our body opposes this motion because of its inertia. So, feet which is in contact of the bus comes in motion, but the rest part of the body opposes this motion because of its inertia. Then in that case we may get a backward jerk. When a motor car makes a sharp turn at high speed, we tend to get thrown to one side, isn't it? If you are traveling in a motor car and if it takes a sharp turn at very high speed, then we get thrown to one side. This can again be explained on the basis of law of inertia. We tend to continue in our straight line motion. When an unbalanced force is applied by the engine to change the direction of motion of the motor car, we slip to one side of the seat due to the inertia of our body. Okay, so before taking the turn, our body is in the straight line motion, but immediately when the motor car takes a turn, means it changes its direction, but our body wants to remain in the same state of motion. That means our body wants to go in straight line. That is because of inertia of our body. That is why we are thrown to one side when the bus takes a sharp turn. The fact that the body will remain at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force can be illustrated through the following activities. Okay, so let us see these activities. The first activity, that is 9.1. You have to make a pile of similar carom coins on the table. See, you can see here this is a pile of similar carom coins. You all must have played this game. Attempt a sharp horizontal hit at the bottom of the pile using another carom coin or striker. So, with the help of striker you must have played this. You make a attempt to hit very hard to the lower coin which is at the bottom. If the hit is strong enough, the bottom coin moves out quickly. Okay, the bottom coin moves out quickly and all the coins remain in the same state of motion. Once the lowest coin is removed, the inertia of the other coins make them fall vertically on the table. So, in some situations what happens, when the lower coin is moved by flicking the striker, then these coins wants to remain in the same state of rest, but because of no base they fall there vertically on the table. Now, the next activity is activity 9.2. Set a 5 rupee coin on a stiff playing card. So, you have to take a playing card, on that you have to place one 5 rupee coin. Okay. Covering an empty glass tumbler standing on a table as shown in the figure. Look at the figure 9.7. There is a table kept on which a playing card is there, on which you have to place one coin which is of 5 rupee coin. Okay. Give the card a sharp horizontal flick with a finger. So, here you can see in this figure, flicking the card is shown very clearly. So, you have to give a horizontal flick with your finger. If we do it fast, then the card shoots away and allowing the coin to fall vertically into the glass tumbler due to its inertia. So, what happens if you flick that card very strongly, very fast, then the card gets shooted from that place. It goes and falls somewhere, but the coin wants to remain in the same place because of its inertia. But as there is no base to stay, so the coin falls in the glass. So, this is again due to the inertia of coin. The inertia of the coin tries to maintain its state of rest even when the card flows off. Okay, so when you flick the card flies away, but even if there is no card, then also the coin wants to remain in the same state of rest. That is why it falls in the glass. So, this is very interesting activity which you can definitely do at home. So, today you try this activity. Okay. Now, the next activity 9.3, that is place a water filled tumbler on a tray. Hold the tray and turn around as fast as you can. So, in this activity what you have to do is you have to take a tumbler and fill water in that, and you have to turn around with that tumbler in a tray. You have to turn as fast as you can. We observe that the water spills. Why? So, in this case, why the water spills? Because the water wants to remain in the state of rest because of its inertia, but as there are turns, that is why the water spills down. Observe that a groove is provided in a saucer for placing the teacup. Isn't it? There is a groove in which the teacup can be placed properly. It prevents the cup from toppling over in case of sudden jerks. So, if there are sudden jerks, then also the cup does not fall because it is kept safely over in the saucer because of presence of the grooves in the saucer. So, this is all about the first law of motion. Now, the question is inertia same for all the objects? Definitely not. So, inertia of the object depends on the mass of the objects. Okay, so, if mass of the object is more, then inertia is more. If mass of the object is less, then inertia is less. So, let us discuss about this relation between inertia and mass. So, let us move to the next concept, that is inertia and mass. All the examples and activities given so far illustrate that there is a resistance offered by an object to change its state of motion. Isn't it? Till now whatever examples we have seen, that all shows that the object provide a resistance, it offer a resistance for change in the state of motion. If it is at rest, it tends to remain at rest, and if it is moving, it tends to keep moving. Okay, so if the object is at rest, it wants to remain at rest because of its inertia. Similarly, if the object is moving, it wants to keep on moving. Again, this is also because of inertia. So, this property of an object is called its inertia. So, opposing the change and remaining in the same state of rest or motion of the object is called as its inertia. Now, do all bodies have the same inertia? No. We know that it is easier to push an empty box than a box full of books. Why? Because an empty box is having less mass, and whereas a box which is full of books is having more mass. So, the inertia offered by an empty box is less, and whereas the inertia offered by a box which is full of books is more. That means, from this we can say that if the mass of the object increases, then its inertia also increases, and if the mass of the object decreases, then its inertia also decreases. That means inertia is directly proportional to its mass. Okay. Similarly, if we kick a football, it flies away. But if we kick a stone of the same size with equal force, it hardly moves, isn't it? You can kick the football very easily, it flies away, but if you take a stone which is having the same size as that of football, and if you kick that stone with equal force, then it does not fly away like football, it hardly moves. We may in fact get an injury in our foot while doing so, isn't it? Similarly, in activity 9.2, instead of, we have discussed activity 9.2, in that instead of using this 5 rupee coin, okay, here the 5 rupee coin is used. If we use a 1 rupee coin, we find that a lesser force is required to perform the activity. So, for flicking the card, we require less force. We can easily flick that if the coin is light, means it is having less mass, and whereas 5 rupee coin is having more mass, so we require more force for flicking the card. A force that is just enough to cause a small cart to pick up a large velocity will produce negligible change in the motion of a train. So, force which is just enough to cause a small cart to pick up a large velocity. Okay. So, if suppose there is a small cart and if you are just applying some force, then also it causes a large velocity in the cart, but it will produce a negligible change in the motion of a train. Okay, so if you apply the same amount of force to the cart and to the train, then the cart will acquire a large velocity, but this force applied is negligible for moving a train. It does not cause any effect on the train. This is because in comparison to the cart, the train has a much lesser tendency to change its state of motion. Okay, so by just applying some force, the cart can change its state of motion, whereas train requires more force for changing its state of rest. Accordingly, we say that the train has more inertia than the cart. Okay, so the cart has less inertia because it has less mass in it, and whereas train has more inertia because it has more mass in it. Clearly, we can say that heavier or more massive objects offer larger inertia. So, from this what can we conclude? That the objects which are more massive, massive means having more mass, or which are heavier, they offer larger inertia. That is why 5 rupee coin offers more inertia as compared to 1 rupee coin. A train offers more inertia as compared to a small cart. Quantitatively, the inertia of an object is measured by its mass. We may thus relate inertia and mass as follows. Okay, so quantitatively we can measure the inertia with the help of the mass of the object. So, we can set the relation between inertia and mass in the following way. Inertia is the natural tendency of an object to resist a change in its state of motion or of rest. So, we have seen that inertia means it is the natural tendency of the object, it resists a change in the state of motion or of rest, means it wants to remain in the state of motion if it is already moving, and it wants to remain in the state of rest if it is at rest. It does not want the change. The mass of the object is a measure of its inertia. Okay, so, mass of the object is a measure of inertia, means more is the mass, more is the inertia. Less is the mass, less is the inertia. So, they are directly proportional to each other. So, this is the relation between mass and inertia. So, students, today we have discussed about the first law of motion, which is also called as the law of inertia. So, what is the statement of this law? It is the tendency of the object to remain in the same state of motion unless and until some external unbalanced force is acting on that. After that, we have discussed about inertia and mass and the relation between these two quantities. So, inertia is measured by its mass. Greater is the mass, greater is the inertia. Mass is less, then inertia is also less. So, today here we will stop. In the next session, we will discuss the second law of motion. So, just go through the concepts and mark important points. We will stop here. Thank you.